I have been more active as a consequence of the exercises I've been doing with Mitch. And yesterday, I took a canoe ride with Judy and Bea across the Salmon River, went to the beach, and on the way, I was a passenger on the way over. Getting in
That's
and out of the
awesome,
boat,
Bill.
I was pretty good. But on the way back, I was the paddler. And Judy and Bea said I did a good job.
Right on.
Uh, and it was all perfect, except as I was coming out of the boat, I slipped and scraped my knee. But I wouldn't have even tried had it not been for feeling stronger and especially
Absolutely.
in my arms, getting in and out. So
Hey,
thank
good
you,
for
man.
you, and happy Father's Day to you, my man. I hope it was a good day yesterday.
It was wonderful. Thank you.
Right on. Oh, that's really awesome. When was the last time you think you got into a canoe and felt comfortable trying something like that?
Oh, I think it was well
Been a little while?
over a year or two that I was last in it, and it was hard for me. This was much easier. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, good for you, man. Very good. So Bill and I have a little bit of a different style that we did for the videos today. It still shows a lot of the exercises, but it's a little bit of multiple exercises, and we did something called our WD-40. Bill, I'll let you kind of describe the WD-40. It's pretty simple, but it makes us move better, right? Why?
Well, you need to loosen up the joints and wake up the muscles. They don't wake up when the brain wakes up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So would this be maybe some of the things that you do almost on like a daily basis instead of it being, really challenging? It's more of the, like you said, it wakes the muscles up and it just makes us move better on a daily basis for our daily activities.
Yes, absolutely. I try to incorporate these into my routine. I don't even consider it a workout per se, just a
Okay.
loosen up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we're going to go ahead and bring us into the Instagram. Let me get into my spot right here. I had it loaded. And Bill, are you able to see my screen already, or do I need to hang on?
I
Start the
see your
broadcast.
screen.
3
Yeah,
seconds. 2, 1, and we should
yeah.
be good. Excellent. So this is actually just a picture. I was being a little bit of a dork. I just thought this looked really cool. I took a screenshot of this one for more of our cover photo. So this is not necessarily our warm up. I just like how Bill is really extended up in that high position. He was holding this position here too. So something that he was definitely not comfortable or able to do at the beginning. So, it's definitely a little bit of a highlight here too. But I just kind of like the way it looked with the TRX. And we talked a lot about the TRX chest stretches and how to use that workout piece of equipment there. And I think a lot of people were asking about that. So to touch base on there again, I do believe it's trxtraining.com. And that's where you can find some different styles of straps, anything from about maybe $100 to upwards to $250 if you want a little bit more of a stronger strap. So right
The
here, we're
straps
going to
you
go into
gave
the net.
me, the straps you gave me, I got to use them over the weekend, and
Oh, good.
I could do like lunge, abdominal exercises, squats, and a little bit of triceps and biceps and lats. So
That's
they
awesome.
were useful. They were useful.
That is awesome. I love it. So we're going to slide to the next one. Bill, I'm going to kind of let you explain a couple of these. You can see we're both exercising on this one. So it's really just like kind of some simple versions of getting the like arm circles,
I'm the
allowing for the
handsome guy on
brain.
the left. Yeah.
Yes, 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 yes. Bill, explain why we do something so simple like this. What's the point of moving like this, or warming up like this? I guess I should say.
Well, it's I think many people have experienced that they can't really exert as much force with the muscle before they've done a little bit of movement. This is really pronounced like with my grip. If I just wake up, I don't have much of a grip, but loosening up helps me wake up and get the full range of motion so I can exert more force
Yeah,
and feel limber.
almost that
Yeah.
wake up and warm up type deal.
Yeah.
We'll kind of go over that little line there. So yeah, I mean, we're doing, like I said, we're doing a couple different ones. So I'm just gonna have to let these kind of play through. All of them are anywhere from 5 to 10 reps, I would say, or sometimes just more so of a time duration. Like Bill was just saying, though, it's not necessarily about the quantity of it. It's really about the quality of the movement and understanding why we're doing it. You know, I'll give them some small little cues in the sense of move from the shoulder joint. Don't let your hands move your joint. Move from the actual muscles around that area. You know, so really try to turn on certain spots that are stabilizers and really good muscles for postural control as well. You can see our forward raises.
I was not as appreciative of the role of supporting musculature until a lot of these exercises sort of depend on a strong base, a strong
Absolutely.
core balance. And I thought, oh, I'm just
Absolutely.
doing arm flexion is just biceps, but it's everything plus the biceps.
Yep, absolutely. As you can see on that last video too, I hadn't, oh, it didn't show long enough from the side view, but the high knee extensions there, you know, there's so many things going on between the sense of Bill and I talking about his spine and pelvis needing to stay in a good position. As he lifts one leg off the ground, he doesn't have as much of a base of support. So the core should be active. His knee on his leg that's on the ground, the knee, I still want it to be straight. You know, I want the glute to be active around his hip muscles. So there's a lot of things going on within some of these simple exercises. Bill kind of touched base on this a little bit ago when he was doing the sword swing. You can refer back to that on a video. I do believe it was 2 weeks ago. You know, and it's really just showing that some of these smaller exercises are working a lot of different concepts, and the focus there or understanding as well is very important. Here we go for a wall slide. So I think we had touched base a little bit on this last week. The wall slide is really just to allow for some scapular movement, you know, as we can touch base on this again as well, something else of the fused scapula. You know, this is not necessarily the recommended exercise. You know, I think there are some other attacks that I would try first before I actually understand a little bit more as to how the surgical process of a fusing of the scapula goes. Rotator cuff muscles are really important when moving the arm bone and the scapula. So depending on how that process is done, I would probably avoid this one. But if you do not have that process there, try to use a wall, try to use, you know, some kind of a door frame. What Bill has on his hand is just a little like sliding glide ball that just allows for it to move a little bit more efficiently. He's pretty close to the wall though. Bill, how close would you say you're actually standing from the wall?
Oh, less than 6 inches. Yeah.
Sounds about right. So really, I mean, his toes are probably straight to the wall rather, you know, and that's kind of the concept there is, you know, trying to keep those, you know, a straight vertical line. It is a challenge. Bill, do you think you could have done this at the beginning?
No way.
Okay.
No way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because the wall does help, but I don't think you could have done this at the beginning.
I think I could have done part of the way, like sliding on
Yeah.
the door frame a little bit, but not the full range.
Yep. That makes
It
sense. And
does give some support,
mhm,
the plane of the door, but even more so the ridge of the door frame. But no, I don't think I could have done this.
totally. No, it's great. You know, and then touching, you know, into the idea that we just talked about a little bit ago of postural control. You know, Bill can, if he was like he was kind of saying, I might have been able to slide my hand a tad bit, but I think what would have also happened is he would have lost the you know the stability of standing tall. You know, he would arch back, lose the low abdominal you know activation there for keeping his you know neutral position and neutral posture. So for the ability of being able to do both now, that's a great achievement. Here's our sword swings again. So we're kind of, this is what we were talking about just a few minutes ago on a video a couple of weeks ago. He was using a 3-pound weight a couple of weeks ago though. So would I do the 3-pound weight? If his endurance and strength, you know, levels are all there, everybody's going to be at a different spot. What's heavy for Bill could be light for somebody else and vice versa. So we always need to remember that is that it's always going into the individual. The sword swing in general, like I said, there's a lot of things going on here. I have him thinking about creating force into the ground. I have him thinking about, you know, he's bending his knees and he's throwing his arms. So there's a lot of distractions going on around the core where he has to try to dial it back in.
The extra weight is more effort, but in some ways it's easier because the momentum of the weight and the arm allows me to have greater extension at the shoulder. So it's pros and cons. Mitch, your phone battery is low, according to Janet Schuster.
Let me go and get this plugged in here and go on to the next video. Bill, you want to describe this one while I'm walking back in?
Okay, so I'm doing
Hey, no.
resistance with my pec musculature, and that's part of the reason why Mitch was poking the pec to wake up that muscle. And it's graded, he's giving me a little resistance throughout the range of motion, and I'm trying to maintain my balance while he's doing that. My pectorals are now a new area of focus now that I have other supporting musculature in the shoulder working. I want to strengthen the pecs. So my goal, hopefully this year, is to get to be able to do a push-up again.
Absolutely. And I think, you feel pretty confident. We've really changed some of the angle that we've been doing. We will go into a push-up position quite often and just have him hold. There's a lot of muscles that are keeping, your body in that position. Your triceps are working. That was a big one for Bill too. But then, someone mentioned at the week 2 of the Serratus Anterior as a huge muscle for people with FSH. The Serratus Anterior is a muscle that, for the most part, attaches your scapula to your rib cage. It kind of allows for some of the smooth gliding around your rib cage. And a lot of us have it, as a weak muscle, and it's very common with somebody with FSH. So, getting him into that push-up position, whether it's on a kitchen counter or, a bathroom counter, anything that's a little bit more maybe hip level first, and challenging yourself at that position. Once you can get up to maybe, what would you say, Bill, 45 seconds or so, 60 seconds, maybe we can start to challenge that a little bit lower. I would definitely go for a little bit more of an endurance check instead of, going down low too soon. It is definitely a little bit of a concern. We will put a pad below us just in case if, we do lose the stability. That's why safety, and thinking about the option or the things that could happen, the repercussions that could happen from an exercise, we are challenging the body, every time he comes in. Well, almost every time he comes in, as long as he's well rested and feeling good. But having some safety precautions, set out there just in case is always important too. So think about all the things that could happen with the exercise.
Yeah, I'm very afraid of face plants.
As you should be. I don't think any of us would necessarily find that very comfortable. So yes, we want the challenge, but keep it in a good zone. So make that decision on your own as to when you are ready. So here's the other one. This is me and Bill just locking in. He talked about the chest press. So I'll take over the row. And it's really just pulling. So he's pulling inwards and activating. I went with his left arm over there so you can see the scapula slide back and come back towards more of the midline or the spine. And like I said, it's gliding. It's smooth gliding around your rib cage. Lots of cues here. I always tell people to pull from the back. Don't pull from the hand. Don't pull from the elbow. Pull from your lat muscle is a really strong muscle there. Anything from the back side of the body is where I usually try to initiate the pull from. Bill usually, sometimes he tends to rotate. So that's another picky thing that I find for him. So I tell him to more so try to keep it a little bit more belly button and sternum facing forward and allow the arm to row. But the feedback that he gets from me kind of giving a little bit of tugs there too is awesome neuromuscular feedback for him to kind of feel the activation of the muscle. And then we go into a progression here of a pull. I'm sorry, I think some of the loading, I'm trying to load, I think sometimes too long of videos, and some of the ends are not finishing. So on the end of this video, he just has a row with a band. So the band is just attached to the wall. And it really just creates a little bit more tension than I'm giving him. The further he pulls the band, since the band is attached, he then, it gets tighter and tighter, so the tension increases. So as he's pulling me, I kind of go with him as well. So it's a little bit more of the same tension the whole time.
So this is a kind of exercise that you can do without having to go to a fancy gym if you have a
Absolutely.
strong friend who's willing to help out.
Absolutely. And I mean, you really can as well. With all this coronavirus and the pandemic that we went through, there was a lot of ideas and techniques of people working out at home, as not only were gyms closed, but a lot of sporting goods stores were sold out very quickly as everybody was creating home gyms. So people would use the kind of the approach of the isometric contractions. We talked about this last week as well, where you are activating the muscle, but you are not moving the joint. There's a lot of approaches that you can do there. People would step on a beach towel and just pull, use their legs to try to pull and stand tall, but they wouldn't move. They would stay in that same position, but it still would activate the muscles. You can actually create some incredible force there. So my point onto this end is that even if you just had some kind of a handle, or like a door handle rather, as long as your door handle is solid and strong, you could even just pull on that a little bit and it would activate some of those muscles. I like the active motions, not necessarily the isometric contractions. We did that with a few muscles for Bill, but with the scapula and me really wanting it to move, we had to actually make an active motion. So there's a time and a place for, all sorts of different approaches, but find that one that works best for you.
When is a good time, you think, Mitch, to do isometric exercises? Under which circumstances would you recommend it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to use you as an example. If we talked about this, we did it a lot with the pecs. So, or the abdominals are also another thing there too. So as we talked about the core bracing a few weeks ago, you don't move. You're just sitting in a position. You move initially because you try to kind of flatten that spine to the ground, but then you just stay there. So you stay in that core bracing. But an isometric contraction a lot of times is more so somebody that has bad joints, arthritic joints, and we're trying to make the joint actually move less and the muscle become a little bit more active and stronger, or somebody that is having difficulty finding the muscle. So, whether it's a hamstring or a quad, or somewhere in the shoulder rather, just holding a position and having to stabilize weight or some kind of a resistance pull somewhere is going to make your brain feel it too. So sometimes it's an easier way for us to attach our brain to that muscle. Hopefully that answered that question a little bit.
Thank you.
I'm gonna reset that one. So this is something called the Palloff press. So this is relatively similar to what we were just talking about with an isometric contraction. He is moving his arms, so yes, I do understand that part. But what is happening is I moved here actually so that you guys could see. First, he was just doing it from an attached wall position, and then I moved over there. So I'm standing in one position. He has enough tension that he can feel it, and the band is trying to almost pull him into rotation to the right side. Now, he's not allowing that to happen. So, now he's rotating. But at first, when he was pushing that band away from him, the further the resistance pull gets from the body, the more the core should activate or want to activate to keep your body where it wants to be. Now, it was a core rotational movement, or an anti-rotation movement is what it's also referred to, of Bill moving and not being pulled. So it's really just the distractions of how to get his core to fire. And then you can see on that last one, we went into a rotation, which is then coordinating a change of direction and keeping the core active.
And I will attest to the fact that when the elastic is further away from my body, when my arms are pulled out, there is more rotational torque on me. So it does require more effort to keep from twisting to the right.
Absolutely. And usually for the back foot here, I usually turn the audio off as we're chatting quite a bit. So, the back foot here, I usually tell them to squish the bug. So that's really a lot of change of direction. And, when the body balance is being thrown off, but he can maintain it. As soon as that resistance is not pulling him back, he can maintain that position even, much more easier, much more efficiently. So that's really what strength training is, kind of in a nutshell, is making our normal everyday movements simpler, making it to the point where the body is not getting as taxed, making it to the point where we kind of stay, out of that injury zone. We don't want to be very close to that very often. Bill, I'm going to let you describe this one, my man. This is our squat row. This is a little bit of an extra. This is not necessarily our warm-up. We threw this one towards the very end. All the rest of these exercises are things that he did on a daily basis. We can review those real quick. Core resistance activation, You know, you can do all sorts of different things between feet wide. You can do different positions with 1 foot back, 1 foot forward. The pushes and the pulls, you know, I think that should be done every single day, as we use our shoulder joints in our hands a lot as humans. So, you know, keeping that on a normal everyday kind of basis, I think is very important. I have a mentor that I follow that he makes his kids wake up every day and throw bean bags through hula hoops that hang from the ceiling. And it's just so smart. What do they want to do? Do they want to watch some maybe Looney Tunes or some, you know, cartoons in the morning? Absolutely. And he lets them do it. But you know, turning on the brain receptors and, you know, more of like how we, you know, quickly think and attach the arm bone into the movement pattern of throwing something. And, you know, the idea is activation. Turn your light switches on, turn your brain on, and your body should move and feel better throughout the day. Here's the push instead of the pull. Sword swings. So remember, a lot of this was more so of a WD-40 approach. He does this a lot on a daily basis, rather. I wouldn't yell at him if he skipped a day. It's okay. Rest is very important as well. But he does know that when he does some of these things, it just works better. And like Bill said, you don't need too much.
It's become part of my routine. It's
Absolutely.
not a big effort to do it. This is
Absolutely.
cool. The TRX, you can get, I'm getting leg and core and arm work in one exercise. So I fall back, squat, straighten up, and then row back up to vertical.
Absolutely. And the row is working what back there? Are we working those shoulder blades again?
The lats, is it?
Yep. Well, a lot of the posterior side of the body, the back side of the body. But yeah, absolutely. The lats are very much involved. You know, we've talked a lot about the scapula today. So that is something, you know, in the sense of the FSH, you know, of fascioscapular, it's, you know, it's very commonly affected. So, you know, on a daily basis of things, I think the scapula is probably maybe 60% involved in all of our exercises. Bill, would you say?
I don't know, but all I can say is this is fun, and I couldn't do it before, and I can do it now. And I hope people who are watching and listening will get to have the same joy and movement that I've experienced.
Absolutely.
Or regain it.
Absolutely. What other kind of, you were talking about the treadmill here, Bill. What kind of things do you do for cardio? You talked about your Piddock Mansion. You know, you go outside and do that. What kinds of things, I mean, and you can touch base on that Piddock Mansion again, because that's awesome. But what do you do for cardio? Like what, you know, a lot of this is more so strength training and activation. You know, why is cardio important, and what do you do?
Well, I just to get the blood pumping and to have my endurance and to exercise the heart. I mean, that's what we mean by cardio. I try to do miles on the treadmill, at least a mile, and then I try to vary the speeds on it. So I will start at 1.5 miles an hour, but I'll get up to 2.5, 3 miles an hour. I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but interval sprinting helps with endurance. If you can consider 3 miles an hour sprint. And then I do biking with my recumbent trike if the weather permits. And I like to do it on terrain that allows me to climb up some steep hills.
Absolutely.
And that's
what about kind of different energy systems there, Bill? What's that thing that you like to do at my gym, the bike, that, you know, really brings the heart rate and kind of, you know, challenging the heart there, you know, giving it a different idea. Like you were talking about tempos and speeds. You know, where is the spot where you do feel comfortable doing a really intense speed?
I'm really comfortable off speed. No, but on the bike, what's interesting, you have a bike with a stationary bike with resistance, a wind resistance, that just from 2 sessions a week apart, what was difficult, you know, what was maximal effort in week 1 can be a much more relaxed effort on week 2. So it's not a fixed thing. I mean, your instructions to me were, see, how fast can you go for a full minute? What speed can you maintain for a full minute and then rest? for a minute.
Totally.
I don't know. I don't know the exact times, and then repeat that for 2, 3 more reps. Well, that's exhausting, but the buildup is so dramatic after just a week. I don't remember what I was able to do the first week, 22 miles an hour or 19 miles an hour, but by the second week, my maximal effort from the first week uh, was like grade 2 or grade 3 on the subsequent week.
Yep.
I
You
don't
were
know if I
right
can
about 20
sustain
and a
that.
half there. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
you're totally correct. I mean, it's a little bit of also being used to it, so getting comfortable with the movements. Our brain does adapt pretty well. But yeah, we need to challenge our energy systems. We have some that is much more of a, people have heard of this, of aerobic and anaerobic. Aerobic usually kicks in around 20 to 25 seconds ish. Everybody is just a tad bit different. And then, anaerobic is much more of that sprint system that is just go, 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 but you cannot go for that long, eventually, because you're not getting the oxygen necessarily. But, it's a good challenge to get our heart rate up there, to get the blood flow, like Bill was saying, so kind of changing some things every once in a while, is very important. So safety is key. So that's why I kind of had Bill say that too, is safety is super key. So, on the treadmill, he might not feel comfortable going to certain speeds. So, gyms usually have some kind of a sit down bike or some kind of a, sit down arm machine. You can do any kind of movements that will be taxing to the, cardiovascular system. It doesn't necessarily have to just be onto a cardiovascular machine. If you grabbed a ball and slammed it down on the ground, as many times as you could in a row, you're going to get taxed. It's going to push your energy systems into directions that, our body is not necessarily super comfortable or familiar with, but we adapt to it really well. And then we become, a little bit more versatile into certain things that we then become comfortable with. So that's when Bill can all of a sudden tell me, oh, I, went to the Piddock Mansion, but I decided to do it twice. And when he told me that, I just said, what? But obviously he felt comfortable doing it, so the thing about it is jumping yourself a little bit, into certain zones that maybe is a little bit outside of your box.
And I've made the Piddock not twice, but doing it once. I cross town by bike, then go up the hill with a friend, and then go down. After doing it twice, I was sore the next day, and I became more cautious. But once is a workout. Once is a workout.
Absolutely. Is there any certain things that you use at home? We use that orange band quite a bit. So as we talked about a lot of the stuff, at home that we can do, as I'm referencing this video again of the overhead slides, what do you use at home that is most handy, Bill?
For this type of exercise?
No, just in general. Like, what's your go-tos? I mean, we have that orange band, and because that's really the only apparatuses that we use today, and the TRX that we talked about last week. We have the little sliding mechanism, but the band, the 3-pound dumbbells you talk about a lot.
I use the light dumbbells. I have like sandbags and 5-pound and 10-pound dumbbells, and I have a gymnastic ball, which is nice for stretching my chest out, just draping my arms over the ball, and also Mitch has shown me some abdominal exercises I can do with that. I don't have a whole lot of equipment per se, but
No,
the
yeah,
little
and
bit that we have
that's really the
is
point.
helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really what we're trying to, kind of explain here, is we didn't use, really not necessarily too many things in the gym, and we don't need to have that stuff. The band that I bought it from Amazon. I want to say it was maybe $7. If you get a handle, it's probably about $5 more. So, a lot of things can be done and very beneficial for our body that are, easily done at home, easily done with just a little bit of creativity as well. So this reference sheet here, it was guided to be a little bit more simple. This is another spot, I think, right here where it cuts out a little bit. As you can see, I start to get Bill up with 2 hands, and he's then going lateral. So we're really, enforcing a different direction again, and we kind of just throw things. We have a little routine, a normal routine that we go to, but we really throw things at him, as just like a kind of keep him entertained. He doesn't know what's coming next. Why don't you try this? Bill, how about you lift up and then, pull your hand off the wall, and try to keep that joint stable. So,
Yeah, that's a
being
hard one.
creative
Yeah.
as well is super key. What were you going to say, Bill?
That's a hard exercise, the one where you pull the joint off the wall. I don't know. I'm not even sure the musculature I'm trying to strengthen, but that's challenging. But that's good, important to do things that I feel competent with, and I'm showing growth in, and other things that are real struggles. Struggling is part of the growth process.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What would you say at this point now where, relatively, like we've said, we've been working for about 4 years or so, and I'd say the last 2 years, especially pretty consistently, where would you say you're at now? Are you are you working on, something that like specific in the sense of, are we past postural, or do we kind of still remain in doing those things? Like, is it important to always do the things that, kind of made us better at the beginning?
I think we're still doing the early exercises are incorporated into other exercises because it's very modular what you've been doing. So I think we're still using it, and there's room for obvious improvement just looking at our relative stances, but I've seen improvement. I believe I can continue to improve. And what I've done, I don't know if it's clear to the audience, is initially I was doing this once a week, but I've been doing now sessions with Mitch twice a week for well over a year and a half. Is that right?
That's probably about right. Why would you say you went to twice a week? Like, I mean, what's the
I was
benefit there?
hungry for faster improvement. I was greedy for more and faster improvement, and I thought
Hey,
I was convinced that I was seeing improvement, and I just wanted to accelerate the process.
hey, it's hard for anybody to be mad at you for you wanting to get more of being healthy and moving better and feeling better. So, it's the consistency parts that, are key. Yes, Bill and I have, like we've said, developed a wonderful relationship. We will talk on other days, other than just our 2 hours that we exercise. Obviously, yes, now we're doing these webinars too. So we get to see each other and hear each other even more. But, what I'm really saying is, the communication is key. Having communication with, whether it's your partner at home or, coworkers, and having, some kind of a challenge for the month, or, having plans like that are just, really, really a big part to the success in exercise and health. And the WD-40 is something, that we will kind of fine tune, on a monthly basis. Rather, a lot of the exercises though are really, the foundation still. We might add on something to the end of it. So if we had like a knee high kick, maybe I'd do a knee high kick, bring it down, and then go backwards. So just kind of challenging, but you work off of the foundation, and the foundation sometimes needs to be repaired or maintenance. And with our body, I like to do those repairs and maintenance, for myself, a couple times a week. For certain other people, it might be different. Everybody is different. So go with what makes you feel better. If you feel better with this WD-40 and you do it a couple times a week, and then you do it a couple more times a week, and you just feel better and better, there are things that are, going to progress, and you're going to feel, the new doors open up of things that you can do and challenge yourself. But, having that foundation and WD-40 list is a great start.
Mitch, we have some questions. People are asking about, have we been doing balance exercises? And yes, we've been doing balance exercises.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I could have straightened, stood on one leg and straightened extended the other leg without that. It's hard for me to remember what the initial balance exercises were, but I think please correct me, Mitch, but I think we started with a wide stance and then narrow stance, then one leg up
Yep.
with a little balance assist, and then a little jostling, and then the Bosu ball upside down. So there's a variety of balance techniques.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The pad, we use the knee pad. If you have a pillow at home, anything that creates more instability makes our body have to create more stability. So the ground is pretty awesome. It's pretty stable. But then the Bosu ball is not as much. A pillow is not as much. Sand is not as much. You know, even grass sometimes can be a little up and down. You know, standing on a hill. So there's just a lot of little things that you can change that'll distract your body from staying right in the center. And
Closing
so
your eyes is a
that's actually very difficult. It is very difficult. If you see here, I flipped back to a couple of weeks ago. This is one of our more progressions, somewhat. I mean, he still has me, so it helps. But we do this on not necessarily a regular basis, but something similar to this. I would say we do it daily. You know, whether it's just walking a line. So, you know, if we have where I have my mats connected in the gym, you know, it creates lines straight across. And so I'll just tell Bill just to go high knee, step down and step right in front, go, you know, heel to toe. You know, have some kind of a challenge right there, going backwards, going forwards, going left and right. Hip hurdles are a great one. I'm not sure if that is in here. I don't think it is. Hip hurdles are really, if you're just standing, you're just like stepping over a hurdle. So we'll do lateral hurdles. We'll do over, under, where you have to go up over the hurdle and then underneath it. Yes, there is not actually a hurdle there. So yeah, I know you wouldn't be able to do that, but you know, great for the balance, great for the body awareness.
great for getting in and out of a bathtub or in and out of a
Totally.
canoe.
Or the canoe, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, a lot of things, you know, as you do these exercises, you know, don't just do them, you know, to say you did them. Do them because it's going to, you know, better something. Have a challenge there too. It'll keep you a little bit more accountable. You have something that you're, you know, trying to, or like a reward system, you know. It does work. I'm not saying a reward is to go have like a bowl of ice cream, you know. It's more so, you know, Bill's reward was to be able to make it up and down the Piddock Mansion twice, you know. And I know that doesn't really necessarily sound like a reward because he had to work for it, but you know, he wasn't able to do that beforehand, and that wasn't really, you know, able. And you know, the ride that he takes to the Piddock Mansion is beautiful, so there's a little bit of the reward there as well. But the, you know, the physical ability of being able to do that, you know, is key. So let some of these exercises and plans, you know, kind of feed into that, and it'll probably keep you a little bit more focused there too.
It's good to have a challenge and meet a challenge, and it feels like growth.
Absolutely. Here's a little bit of the steps ups, as we talked about that earlier, as to where I said, you know, we do a lot of our basics. We come back to our basics because we need to remember what makes us feel better in the first place. You know, Bill is squatting here a 30-pound kettlebell. To be specific, I think it's 35 pounds actually. You know, and that is also something of, you know, really progressing us into, you know, muscular development in his glutes, his quads, his hamstrings, you know, calves. There are certain areas that work better than others for sure, even in the, you know, the quad muscles. I mean, there is 4 different quad muscles, excuse me. You know, and there might be ones that better fire than others, but the biggest part is stability and balance. You know, we want to work away from pain. You know, don't just push through because your program says it, or that you want to get to this weight so bad. You know, you want to find efficient movement and movement that feels well, and I promise you'll get to that end goal, you know, in a more efficient, you know, pattern and way, and feel pretty good about it afterwards too.
Hey, Mitch, we've got a question from Daniel. He's just wondering what a beginner exercise might be just to activate your quads, so that you can start strengthening them. And it looks like you might have some videos in your arsenal there that might be a beginner exercise.
That's what I was kind of feeding back to. Yeah, a lot of the quick little warm-up exercises kind of fed by real fast, so I went back to a couple of these. This is a couple of stuff. Let's see. A couple of these things are me as well. So with Bill's here, I want to say it was somewhere in here. No, that's the core. So let me just kind of go to that real fast. You know, really anything in the sense of going from like a chair, you know, a seated position to a standing position should work your quads. If you are unable to do that and you want to be in a maybe if we're sitting in the wheelchair, if we're sitting in a chair just to begin with, if you extend your leg straight out in front of you, lift your foot off the ground and extend it straight out in front of you, and then when the knee goes straight, your quad should turn on. It should activate a little bit like the way your core does if you go into a plank. So, you know, sometimes just straightening it and then touching the muscles gives you feedback of activation of those areas too. Then once you have that activation, we can then, you know, hopefully progress into a little bit of a squatted, you know, from a chair up to a tall position. If you have a high box, you know, to the point where you don't have to sit down very low, you know, be creative there as to where you can go. You know, standing tall, if you just bend the knee forward and then push the heel back down and then the knee goes back to straight, that's also a resisted quad exercise. So, you know, you could put a band through that. I'll see if I can post something of myself with some quad work. That's something I have to do quite a bit myself as I move in a very hamstring and glute dominant way. So if my quads do not get active, or I don't, you know, get them some resistance training within my workouts, I actually will tend to have kind of some hip and back, low back tightness because of the imbalance of pull. You know, kind of simplify that a little bit. You know, our skeletal system is really a pulley system from all different angles to keep us in the center. So if one of the, you know, pulley systems is not working correctly, the bone might be being pulled into an area where it doesn't want to go. And then with a 600 or a 200-ish plus bones, you know, we have a lot to control there. So, you know, the postural system, knowing where your posture, like neutral posture system is key, and then trying to work and return to, you know, those areas too, so that your pulley systems are working evenly. I hope that wasn't too much kind of action there. Going back to the quads though, you know, our quad is the front side of that thigh. So that is that front side pulley system that needs to balance with the back side. So I'll see if I can put some quad specific exercises on there with me and Bill, and give you a little bit more feedback there visually instead of just verbally.
Yeah, a lot of it depends on where you're starting. I mean, we're all in different places in terms of which muscles are affected and how severely.
Absolutely. There are machines at the gym as well that are, you know, you sit down and you put your legs behind a little pulley system, not your muscle pulley systems, but an actual cable pulley system, and you just straighten your legs out. So it's exactly what I was talking about, but it just has a little bit more maybe, you know, brain feedback because you can feel the weight, so your nervous system activates more. But, you know, I think just in general, you know, a lot of PT will do that, just kind of going back and forth between a bend and a straightening. Extension is key when people have surgeries for ACLs or, you know, replacement, like knee replacement surgeries. Extension is a big part of that routine, the kind of physical therapy programs.
Your description was really thorough, and just visualizing what you're saying, I was doing it with my leg, and I could tell exactly what you were saying. So thanks.
Good,
Mitch.
that's perfect, because I was doing it too. As I was saying it, I'm sitting here doing it, and I always forget about that with Zoom. Is that I you know, it's almost like a young kid playing a video game, and when he's turning, he starts turning here too. And so that's the way I feel when I'm doing my Zoom sessions and trying to explain something as I'm here, but you can't actually see. So good, I'm glad. It's you know, it's a lot of words. You know, as I said, it's a lot to control. But there are answers out there, you know, so be creative yourself, you know, seek for people that, you know, have some suggestions or ideas of how to, you know, either paint the picture for what you're needing to find, like I just tried to do there, or, you know, on YouTube is really incredible, but have a smart filter. Anybody can post on there. So just know what's best for you. Don't challenge too soon or too fast, but you do need to challenge your body to make some, you know, a little bit more of some bigger gains that, you know, of getting to a goal that you want to try to get to, whether it's just standing taller, walking better balance, you know, some ability of raising the arms overhead, ability of squatting down low and staying down low for a long time. You know, there's a lot of challenges that we can do. Have fun with it and be safe. It's really important there too.
Awesome. I have to tell you guys, you are now reaching an international audience, because we have a question for Bill all the way from India. So Varun asks many questions that are, you know, more FSH related. And so I sent him to our website to learn more about FSHD in particular. But for Bill, Varun has a question. He says that, you know, even after he does minimal exercise, even a couple squats, he has pain for several days. And so Bill, how do you tackle the extreme fatigue and pain, if any, if you had it? How did you tackle that?
I think incremental increase in activity is the way to go. And after I think I overexerted. Mitch refers to my heroic going up this big mansion twice in one afternoon, and I hurt for a couple of days afterwards. I was really tired, and I scaled it back. I continue to go up once at the Piddick Mansion. So if Varun does something that will exhaust him and cause him discomfort with 5 reps, then maybe 3 or 4 reps or less resistance might do it. There's no, the changes are not going to come instantaneously. You have to create a process that you can sustain for life. So incremental improvement is good enough.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's helpful.
No, I think it is, Bill. And I think you're correct on the ideas of, you just can't go too soon. And, a lot of times I have people tell me, that they have back pain and the deadlifting hurt it, and it's like, well, or the gym hurt it. And, their approach is, or the doctor's approach is, you need to do some physical therapy, or you need to go see a trainer and try this and this and this. And, they're very hesitant on doing certain things because they correlate the sense that the gym, that action hurt it. And it might have that specific, movement might have just, the icing on the cake rather, but, you could have probably started with something simpler, so try to find the easier version. Let's say we're trying to do, a bicep curl, and, if you're wanting to work the biceps really bad, but yet something in the elbow just really, really hurts every single time you do more than 10, well, then don't move and do that isometric contraction that we talked about and try to activate just your biceps. Does that help? And if that doesn't help, change something else up. Make it to the point that, maybe it's just someone's hand or your own hand right there, and you're just pulling up and down, or you're guiding it up and down, and you're just feeling your bicep do it. If you did that for a week, and that has no pain, that's great. That means that you can still make the action and not have too much repercussion. So it's really just about knowing where you're at and maybe trying to find a regression. There's a regression and progression to everything. And if you can't figure it out, that's when you need to seek, some further professional help.
Mitch, there was an expression I remember from my younger days, the weekend warrior, the person who's not fit, who's very enthusiastic, and then really crushes it one weekend day, and then is sore and reluctant to exercise again for at least a week.
Oh yeah.
And you don't have to have, this is independent of dystrophy. I mean, people with normal musculature who are deconditioned and overdo it are also going to be sore and reluctant to exercise. So I think incremental improvement is a good approach.
Yes, I 100% agree with you. I'm going to use this example for people to maybe connect to a little bit as well too. Is, I've had people come up to me when I used to work at a big gym and say, hey, I am here all the time, even sometimes a couple times a day, and I just can't get past this little hump of, I can't get this gone, or I can't achieve this. And, I'll tell them, maybe take a rest day. Don't do anything, do less. So our body needs to recover. That's when we really create change and create the ability for creating the strength and forces that we are putting onto our body the next day. So, if you just do it on a daily basis, or if you don't do it ever, your body never really has the time to either get used to it and then recover and get stronger, or recover. And if we just do it every single day, our body also needs the other end, and it's sleep, it's recovery, it's good nutrition, it's good hydration, gut health, things like that. There's a lot of action that go along with recovery and building muscle tissue, balancing our hormones. It's not just exercise. Exercise is key, but there's a lot of things that go along with this whole thing that we refer to as fitness and health.
You should write a book, Mitch.
I would love to write a book. I think I would almost, I'd have to have a really good structure though. We do a podcast too, and we have to have a really solid structure because the three of us, we enjoy our information so much that all of a sudden we'll be down this, you know, hole of talking about something that was completely separate than what we wanted to talk about. And it's just because we have, you know, we enjoy this information, we enjoy trying to share it, you know, and there really are a lot of different ways to try to relate to people. Everybody, you know, one person that gets this cue, you know, it might work, you know, and it might not work for the next person. So it's fun. There is a lot to it, you know. I've got a lot of information, so I don't want to confuse you, as there is a simpler way of doing it too, you know, just knowing you instead of trying to figure out, you know, 40 people. Like the, you know, I mean, I have quite a few different clients that I have to try to balance as well, and that can be a little tough. But figure out you know you, get to know you, and it makes the process of finding some answers a little bit easier too, because you can filter through some of that information a little better.
I think we've got time for one more question. And I'm not sure if you can answer today, or it might take another session. But
No
Daniel's asking, exercises for posture. Standing up straight can be challenging for some folks and really tiring. Are there some sort of easy, or not easy, no exercise is easy, some sort of exercise to help with posture?
Yeah, I'm going to go right to our core exercise, and I think it was this one. So, you know, starting with, I don't think I'm sharing my screen anymore. Give me one quick second. And sorry, I'll try to do this as fast as I can, as I know we're getting short on time. 1 and 0. Okay, so we should be back there. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes.
You know, so this is just our core activation exercises where, you know, we're getting our core to fire. We're getting that command center, the middle of our body, to try to have communication to our limbs. You know, this is a good one for me and Bill. I talked about that bracing, you know, so getting the core to fire first before standing tall is key. So then when we have that connection of the brain to the muscles, it makes it a little easier to kind of find that when you're just standing tall and not having to do a sit-up or a crunch. You know, yes, we can all do a crunch, and for the most part, we usually feel, you know, core fatigue or abdominal activation, but we don't walk around crunching. So how do we get it to the point that then it correlates to us walking around? So, you know, when he does all those, you know, we go through a couple different things, then we get into a bird dog. Right there's a good example though, because his spine is not moving, but his core is still active. You know, right now the spine could fall down towards the ground, just within gravity. So his core has to, you know, maintain that position. So that's a pretty good one there. That's the bird dog. And then real quick, I'll go back to this one. I think it's this one here. This is when we are carrying it's called like a suitcase carry or a farmer carry. And it's just holding weight to one side. So, you know, I will look from, you know, certain different angles. It's ears over shoulders, shoulders over hips, hips over feet. And as we walk, you know, the weight is trying to pull Bill laterally. So he has to activate the other side. You'll see him come back in just a moment. He's got the weight on the left-hand side. His right side is actually what is pretty active right now. You know, we want to think about the spine staying in the center and the pelvis being nice and neutral. So there's a couple of simple-ish exercises, but, you know, like we were just talking about though, find the ones that you are comfortable with, take your time with them, get to know them. One of my easiest examples is talking about young kids when they go into 3rd grade and 4th grade. You know, let's say the kid only he got a D, he only understands 60% of the, you know, curriculum and information, then he goes into 4th grade. Well, 4th grade is based off of 3rd grade. And 60% is really not all that great. So when it comes to exercises, don't progress too soon. Know the exercises, know how your body feels with them and how we can perform them well.
I felt silly a lot at the gym, you know, lifting a dowel up instead of something with obvious weights, or just doing an exercise till I got the form right. But I believe that if you don't do the form correctly, the extra weights, the numbers don't mean as much. You're not really getting the exercise as intended.
Absolutely. No, that's well said. Very well said. Be comfortable with where you're at. You will, you know, for the most part, it's usually just a road that goes up, and it's a lot of progressions that we can have if we are.
And you got to compete with yourself rather than the guy. You know, it's, you know, gyms are kind of scary places. There's a lot of young people who are strong, and there's a lot of mirrors, and you feel very humbled by, you know, your ailment and what you can't do. So when you look at how little you're lifting, that can also deflate your self-esteem. But you got to forget about that. You're competing to make yourself better. You can't
100%.
look at the people around you. You got to look at yourself.
100%.
I think you two should write a book together. That's what you should do.
I like it.
I think we'd get a lot of sales just in our own community.
I think Bill and I would have a good time doing that.
Well, guys, we're at the top of the hour. Can you believe how quickly an hour flies by with you guys? It's amazing.
I love it. It's fun. Me and
is
Bill
good.
enjoy it too. So thank you everybody
Thank
for
you.
listening, and
Thank you.
continue the questions if you have any.
Great. Well, we don't have any other questions, which is great. I think you answered them all today. Thank you.
Hey,
for
did you
doing
mention that Mitch is at Ramp Fitness? Did you have to give yourself a plug, Mitch?
Yeah, Ramp Fitness in Portland.
Yeah,
That's right.
And now
All right.
it's Mitch Wade's virtual training, from what I hear too. So
It is. It's a whole new world now. It's it's
awesome.
fun. I actually had my first experience with somebody in New York, and so it's you know, besides the time differences, it's, you know, it's just the same thing, and it's just a new journey. So I'm looking forward to it as well.
An FSHer?
Yep.
So that's really interesting. We're going to have you back, and we're going to do guest appearances, because I would love to hear what your experience is with two different patients, and how they're affected differently, and how you're having to deal with different muscle groups differently.
It's very fun. Yeah, there's one 16-year-old and then one very soon to come a 9-year-old. So that'll be very interesting as well. So I'm very excited for it. It's gonna be a new adventure, a different adventure as well.
Well, thank you for taking care of all of our peeps. We appreciate it.
It's been fun. Absolutely.
All right, to our attendees, thank you again, everyone, for joining our final live FSHD Fitness Squad today. Very, very special thank you to our amazing squad leaders, Bill and Mitch. We really appreciated you taking the time every single week to share your energy, your amazing fitness programs with our community. Just thank you so much. And I think I really speak for everyone who's joined us here or who's watched the recorded sessions. That these have been extremely helpful and really encouraging, really, really encouraging. And Bill, to see your amazing progress has been so inspiring for so many people who probably thought there was nothing that they could do to improve their mobility, really. So,
well, I am very happy to hear that, and I'm very grateful to Mitch. So thanks for the opportunity to share some of our progress with others.